So this is Sean Glass with IONCINEMA. I have Isiah Whitlock Jr. here for Cedar Rapids. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Sure.
And one thing I wanted to just bring up, we were actually just discussing how I did see you on the street recently, or a little while ago, and I made you do it. I'm not going to make you do it now, but in the film, you make references to The Wire. Do you want to talk about how that came about?
Well, that was already in the script before I was ever attached to it. It was interesting that Phil Johnston, who wrote this incredible script, had done all of that before I had even come onto their radar. Right. But when they asked me, when I read the script, I got very, very excited and wanted to do it. Not so much for the Wire references in it, because I thought, that's all right, and especially, after being on the Wire and stuff like that, I was like, okay.
Don't want to get typecast, yeah.
Yeah, and also I thought, well, that's honest, that that this guy would have this guilty pleasure of watching The Wire. I mean, who wouldn't?
It's so funny the way he says it. It's just all these broad statements and then very specific one.
Yeah, and he would always say, the HBO program, The Wire. It was just never The Wire. It was like the HBO program, The Wire. Mm-hmm. But it was. I kind of just said, well, we'll sort of lay it down. But I was more interested. One, I was very, very interested in the story. I thought the story, what we were trying to tell and say in the story, touched me more than anything. And it was just the honesty, the simplicity of life, losing innocence. And I think that to me is what makes the film work so much, is that we can all kind of look at the film and find something in the film that we can relate to, and that we think, oh yeah, I know what that person's going through, or I've been there before, or I see who this person is. But mostly it's because of that person's heart in the movie.
So how did it come to you? Because you've been doing a whole string of since The Wire, you've been doing a lot of roles, very dramatic roles, and like Rubicon, stuff like that, and 12, similar kind of things. How did this comedy role come to you?
Well, I mean, they sent me the script. I read it. I wanted to audition for it, which I was willing to do, and just kind of through that. And through the audition, let it be known that it was something that I really wanted to do for a variety of reasons. Being from the Midwest, from Indiana, playing an insurance man from St. Cloud, Minnesota, which was very close to where I had gone to college. So I had spent a lot of my youth, and I always say, two things I've always wanted to do was to, one, do a Western, and two, play a character from the Midwest, and because I always thought, I'm talking about the way I grew up. We always got East Coast, and we get a lot of West Coast, and we never really focus on what's in between until we have to elect somebody in the office, and then we start getting freaked out,
because there's so many of them.
Yeah, and wondering well, who voted for these people, But I did always say, I think there's a huge story to tell that is going by the wayside of people that we don't know, that we sometimes have a tendency to kick aside and make fun of, and that's one of the. Even though this is a comedy, we were very careful not to do that.
It holds them in high regard, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, talk about this, because obviously the movie, people are going to go for the comedy, but there is that heart that you just spoke of. Mm-hmm. What do you think it's sort of ruminating on about the Midwest in America? What do you think Cedar Rapids is telling us about it?
I think Cedar Rapids is telling us that to me, there's a universal theme to all human beings. Not to get real technical,
go for it.
but that there is there's certain elements that we all abide by. We just do it in different locations, and in how it plays out in different locations of this country. It also tells us just how big the country is, and but that there are certain things, you know, we still fall in love. We still have needs, we still have wants, and those have to be dealt with. And for me, that's the big message that comes across in Cedar Rapids.
Does this movie have you sort of gotten that out of your system, or does this make you want to do more Midwest?
No, I want to do a few more.
Okay.
You know, because especially growing up. I remember, you know, growing up in Indiana and going to school in Minnesota, and I just couldn't get over just how naive I was. And I thought I was a pretty smart guy. But the summer of '75, I went to San Francisco, and my life has never, ever
How old were you? You don't need to.
been the same. No, I was like 20...
In your 20s, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I was like my early 20s, you know. I had a yellow Volkswagen Bug.
That's awesome.
And and I drove all the way out. And the weird thing was, I ate McDonald's the whole way because I thought, well, you know, yeah, it's kind of like what you do.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to Reno, Nevada, I wanted to commit suicide. You know, so when that movie came out of what was Super Size Me, you know,
right.
It was like I wanted to say, that happened to me, you know, but that summer in San Francisco.
Were you thinking about being an actor at that time, or were you already?
Yeah, I was, because I was going to a summer acting training program at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, and I did all of that. But it was the people that I met and what was going on in San Francisco at that time, and the summer of love, and sitting in Golden Gate Park in your hippie shirt with these puka shells around my neck and flowers in my hair, and trying to get
very
laid.
Different from the Midwest.
I know. But it was. I'm not saying that that's what, you know, San Francisco is all about, because it's a beautiful city. But what I am saying is that I had such an incredible amount of culture shock and it really taught me that things are going to be different in different parts of the country. And so by the time when I went to New York, it was like, you know, been there, done that, you know. And as difficult as it was for me to get started in New York, it still just never surprised me the way that it did going to San Francisco. So when I see Tim Lippy going to Cedar Rapids, and that being like a big city for him, I think everybody at some point in their lives have had a moment like that, where something is just
awakening.
Yeah, it slapped you in the face and made you aware that, you know, there's other ways of life, other things happening out there.
So craft-wise, what is your approach like when you're doing a comedy compared to a genre? Does it change, or is it just character?
It doesn't change. It really doesn't change. And because, I mean, you know, some people can debate it, but for me, I'm just going to deliver the line the way you know I think is best. You know, I hope people find it funny or laugh or whatever.
People were laughing hysterically.
Yeah, they usually do. But usually, I mean, that comes out of just what you're doing. And I also think that people, when they see a lot of the stuff that I do, I never really do anything all that broad.
Right.
I don't think, you know, everything seems to like fit, but you know, sometimes people laugh, they think it's funny, you know.
It's contextually funny. It's not like you're telling jokes or you're being silly.
Yeah.
Which I actually think is a lot more interesting.
I'm not gonna, you know, I don't think I'm gonna be hosting anything in Vegas anytime soon, you know. But you never know, you know, or taking over for Siegfried and Roy or something like that, you know.
Definitely not.
Yeah, right.
So before we wrap, talk to me about Detachment.
Detachment. That was a movie that I didn't spend that much time
Oh, okay.
on it. Yeah, not for me to be able to
Had a
talk.
great cast on it.
Yeah,
Obviously, Tony Kaye directed.
Yeah, and but you know, I was only there for maybe like I think maybe like a day or two.
Oh, okay.
The stuff I had to do, they kind of knocked it out very, very quickly. I met a lot of the people, but as far as like working with them, no. But it was kind of interesting, you know, to because you know James Caan was in the movie, you know, and
It's Faye Dunaway. It's an amazing cast.
yeah, and I thought, you know, it's Sonny, you know, you know,
It's a hero.
I know, you know, and I had to calm myself down, you know, and say, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go and you know, make a fool out of myself. But it was a lot of fun, and it was, you know, Mr. K is a very interesting director, and we seemed like we got along very well. You know, it's a nice rapport, so it was good.
All right. Well, congratulations on Cedar Rapids.
Thank
you
you,
so
man.
much
Thank you.
for the